In the summer of 1944, the Allied armies were pushing across France after the Normandy landings. American forces had broken out of the beaches and were racing eastward. Villages, fields, and roads that had been under German control for years were falling one after another. But despite the rapid advance, danger waited around every corner. German anti-tank guns could turn a country road into a death trap in seconds. And in one small corner of the battlefield, a tank crew found itself facing exactly that reality. What happened next would reveal both the strengths and flaws of one of America's most famous commanders, General George S. Patton. The men inside the tank had already seen enough combat to know that bravery and survival were not always the same thing. Ahead of them lay a stretch of road that intelligence reports suggested was covered by German fire. Several vehicles had already been damaged in the area. Rumors spread quickly among soldiers. Some said enemy guns were hidden behind a tree line. Others claimed German tanks were waiting farther ahead. No one knew exactly what was there. But everyone knew moving forward could mean death. So the tank crew stopped. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. The advance stalled. Other vehicles began backing up behind them. The hesitation of a single crew was slowing the movement of an entire formation. At that moment, General Patton was touring the front. Patton was not the kind of commander who preferred to stay far from danger. He frequently visited forward positions, often placing himself much closer to combat than many senior officers. His philosophy was simple. Wars were won by aggressive action. Speed, momentum, and relentless pressure kept the enemy off balance. To Patton, hesitation was often more dangerous than the enemy itself. When reports reached him that a tank crew was refusing to advance, he decided to investigate personally. As Patton approached the scene, he immediately noticed the traffic jam. Vehicles were lined up along the road. Soldiers waited nervously. The entire column had slowed to a crawl. Patton demanded an explanation. Officers pointed toward the tank at the front. Its crew believed the road ahead was covered by enemy fire and refused to move until the threat could be confirmed. To the men inside the vehicle, the decision seemed reasonable. They were not cowards. They were experienced soldiers trying to avoid driving directly into what might be an ambush. But Patton saw the situation differently. He believed that battlefield uncertainty was unavoidable. If armies stopped every time they suspected danger ahead, they would never move at all. Witnesses later recalled that Patton became furious. The general climbed onto the tank and confronted the crew. His language was direct, blunt, and impossible to misunderstand. Patton demanded action. He reminded the men that their mission was to advance. The longer they remained stationary, the more vulnerable everyone became. Enemy artillery could target the congested road. German forces could reorganize. Momentum could be lost. In Patton's view, every minute of delay carried its own risks. The crew tried to explain their concerns. They pointed toward the suspected danger area. They argued that charging forward blindly could destroy both the tank and its crew. From their perspective, caution was common sense. From Patton's perspective, excessive caution was becoming paralysis. The disagreement represented a conflict seen throughout military history. How much risk should soldiers accept? And when does prudence become hesitation? Patton made his decision. The tank would move. Accounts vary on exactly what was said next. Some stories claim Patton threatened disciplinary action. Others emphasize his forceful orders and personal presence. As with many wartime stories, details differ depending on the witness. But historians generally agree on the central point. Patton ordered the crew forward, and eventually they complied. The tank resumed its advance. The traffic jam cleared. The column continued moving. What happened afterward is what makes the story so interesting. The tank was not immediately destroyed. The feared disaster did not occur. The advance continued. To Patton's supporters, the incident proved his leadership style was effective. They argued that battlefield success often requires decisive action despite uncertainty. Great commanders, they believed, must push their troops through fear and doubt. Without that pressure, opportunities vanish. Critics reached a different conclusion. They argued that soldiers on the ground often possess information their commanders do not. A crew facing possible enemy fire has a perspective that even a general may lack. In their view, caution can save lives. A commander who dismisses legitimate concerns risks unnecessary losses. The debate has continued for decades. Was Patton displaying bold leadership? Or was he taking a reckless gamble? The truth is that Patton's entire career reflected this tension. He was one of the most aggressive commanders of the Second World War. His rapid advances across Europe helped keep German forces under constant pressure. Many historians credit his leadership with significant Allied successes. Yet his aggressive personality also generated controversy. Some admired him as a military genius. Others viewed him as unnecessarily harsh. Both perspectives contain elements of truth. The tank crew incident captures that complexity perfectly. No dramatic battle changed the course of the war that day. No famous victory was won. But the encounter revealed something important about leadership under extreme pressure. War forces people to make decisions with incomplete information. Commanders must balance caution against action. Soldiers must balance survival against duty. And there is rarely a perfect answer. The tank crew believed they were protecting themselves and their comrades. Patton believed he was protecting the mission. Both sides were responding to the same danger, but in very different ways. More than 80 years later, the story remains relevant because it raises a question that extends far beyond the battlefield. When facing uncertainty, should leaders push forward despite the risks? Or should they slow down and gather more information before acting? The answer is not always obvious. And perhaps that is why stories like this continue to be remembered long after the guns of World War II fell silent. What do you think? Was Patton right to order the tank crew forward? Or were the soldiers justified in refusing to move until they knew more about the danger ahead? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this story and want more fascinating World War II history, please like this video, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more forgotten stories of courage, controversy, and leadership from the Second World War to life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.